Welcome everyone to another interview with one of our fun traders. Today we're hosting Shane. Hi Shane, thank you for coming. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
I'm very happy that you came along because I've seen your payouts just now and they're really nice. They look really nice. So
Thank
I want
you.
to dive right into it. Please just start by introducing yourself a little bit so that we can get you know you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Shane. I live out in Tennessee with my family out here and have been trading since 2017. A lot of ups and downs in the trading world, as you can imagine. But up until recently, got funded with funding pips. So really enjoying the process working with this company and smooth payout withdrawal process. So I love that. Very happy to be here this morning.
I'm very happy to hear all of this. First thing in the morning, that's very nice to hear. It's very motivating, actually. So, you started trading 7 years ago. And when you said ups and downs, I really resonated with that. And I think a lot of people do as well. So,
Right.
how did this journey start for you? Like, where did you first hear of trading? How did you decide to get into it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I first found out about trading on Instagram, was trying to figure out what it was all about. I remember downloading MetaTrader on my computer and just really getting fascinated by the candlesticks and knowing that one day I could figure it all out. Ran into some hurdles at the beginning, started trading, didn't want to accept losses, didn't use stop losses, and eventually lost a couple of personal funded accounts that way. But over time, learned proper risk management, psychology, proper strategies on how to trade the markets. And it's led me to being consistently profitable now. And that's what I'm really excited about.
That's very nice to hear, actually. And you speak in a way that, like, you wanted to explain this whole process to a lot of people because, like,
Exactly.
this is the first time we're speaking, and I can understand, like, why you got into this profession and all.
Right.
And right now, is trading all you do for a living?
So right now I do trading. I also work with small, medium-sized businesses and help their businesses grow through consulting work.
That's
So I do
perfect.
that as well. So I'm more of a swing trader, set it and forget it, go and live my life type of trader, not on the charts 24/7, have minimal screen time. And that's really how I like to trade.
That is very interesting. I can say for a fact that a lot of traders we hosted here, they kind of day trade during the day. I think
Right.
one or two were swing traders, but I find it
Mhm.
really, really interesting because it takes a lot of patience. So, but
Mhm.
I'm sure like you didn't have that kind of patience in the beginning. So, how did
No,
this?
absolutely not.
How did it change for you? How was it like for you?
I would say for me with the patience, it came to a point where in the beginning I would trade, and if I would lose an account, a personal account, which I mean, it would be more okay. I'm going to take some time off the markets, come back, do it again, and I'd get back in this same cycle of making money, losing it, back and forth. And I knew one day I needed to change that. So when I got patience with uh, just going through the mental resilience of winning trades, losing, knowing that throughout time I'd be consistently profitable. It built up my mental resilience, allowed me to be more patient. And through that, it just through backtesting the data of my strategy, I knew that over time I would just become more consistently profitable because the data proved that, which allowed me to be more patient.
These are very interesting points, by the way. When you said
Hmm.
backtest and when you said taking a little break somewhere in
Hmm.
between. So before we get into this, let's talk about how did you actually learn how to trade? Obviously, like there's a lot of information online, but I imagine it wasn't as much as we have it today, like 7 years
Right.
ago. So how was your learning process? Because a lot of traders watching this right now, I'm sure like they find it really hard to find the beneficial content for themselves. So, how should they
Right.
proceed when they're learning?
So when I first started learning how to trade, it was more through just watching people on Instagram, figuring out what kind of strategies that they used and what I could really implement for myself. And even to this day, I don't fully follow someone's strategy to the T. I'll take bits and pieces, I'll find what works for me, and I'll stick to that. But it's really in the early Instagram days when I would start to see people post about trading and what it can do for them, how it can help with their life, and I liked the whole idea of it. And over time, I was able to find the best strategy that worked for me, also worked for my screen time, also worked for my psychology as well. And it just molded me into the trader I am today.
It just takes a little bit of time, because when we really get into trading, we have so much time not to learn about the
Mhm.
technicals, but to learn about ourselves. Because, as you
Right.
said, right here, right now, it really takes a lot of time to like learn the patience, learn about your
Mhm.
characteristics. Like
Right.
for an impatient person, it's very hard to trade swing, but
Right.
maybe it's easier to take a loss or a win in a shorter amount of time. So I
Mhm.
do also think that it takes a lot of time, but not because how hard trading is, but because how hard getting to know ourselves is. So thank you
True.
for saying that. Actually,
Of
when you
course.
said back test, I'm sure a lot of traders really like to back test. Sometimes the process is just too long for them. Maybe they skip one or two steps, or maybe they
Right.
don't. But it's an important step in actually like simulating your
Mhm.
strategy in a real market, right? So, how do you think they should do their back tests? How do you think they should journal their back tests? And what
Mhm.
aspects should they be more careful about?
Yeah, all great questions. I'd say the biggest way they can backtest, and rather the simplest way, is just on TradingView, doing the bar replay, going back to each candlestick based on the pattern you're looking for within your strategy, and just seeing over the course of a month, what was the percentage, what was the win rate if you were to put on that trade, and then looking at from a monthly perspective, yearly perspective, it'll help gain the confidence knowing that your edge will play out in the long run. And also too, even through all the back testing, even if the data shows that it's consistently profitable, as long as you're actually executing on the trades, let's say you never back tested and you just executed on that strategy, once you see in the long term that it actually works out, even on a demo account before you're getting funded, that'll also build your confidence as well.
These are excellent points, actually. Excellent points. And I want to add something to what you have
Hmm.
already said about the data.
Hmm.
I think it's also kind of important to add how long the trade actually
Right.
takes. Because
Hmm.
in the backtest, a month can go by in 10 minutes, but in real
Hmm.
life, a month goes by in a month. So
Takes
it takes a
forever.
lot of time for the losses to be balanced out with the wins,
Right.
right? And it takes a lot
Right.
of time to wait for the setup, etc. So by actually taking note of, oh, like how many minutes did this trade take? How many days? I don't care,
Exactly. Hmm.
right? And I
Right.
think it's very like relieving. And because of that data, like for example, I'm also a trader, and I also like
Hmm.
keep record of how long my trades take, and I
Right.
see if my strategy allows me to take a trade. And if that trade takes more than 3.5 hours, I
Hmm.
might be at break even yet. I know that
Right.
it's not going to get stopped out because, according to my data, after 3.5 hours of consolidating, maybe it doesn't get
Exactly.
stopped out somehow. So I think this is also important and wonderful point. Thank you for
Hmm.
mentioning that. It's very
Yeah, of
important.
course.
Can you tell us about some of the key moments in your trading journey? This can be a time that
Mhm.
you probably lost a lot of money, or maybe a time that you realized you can actually do this for a living and make actual money out of it. But
Right.
some key moments.
I would say a couple key moments for me and really big awakenings in trading was when I had first started out. And I remember going back to talking about the no stop loss. I remember just pretty much getting margin called on my account, and account was red and the money was gone. And that was just like it was a tough moment, right? And then just figuring out, okay, there's people that are making money on the other side of this trade. I just lost all this money, but I know someone else just made all this money, right? So I had to come to terms with myself and realize that let me set my ego aside. Let me figure out the right way to trade. What can I do differently next time to make sure that I'm on the other side of this trade and I'm the one of being profitable instead of taking a big loss? So that's really what I decided that, hey, I'm going to stick to this and see it through no matter how long it takes. For me, trading is more of a lifelong journey. Just I see myself trading and showing up to the charts until the day that I'm no longer here. just because I just have the passion behind it for what I do. The money is awesome. It complements what we do, right, as traders. But in the long term, you just have to have love for what it is.
That is amazing. That's amazing to
Mhm,
hear. And when you talk about those ups and downs,
mhm,
I instantly think of like people trading also crypto or other
mhm.
markets that are kind of more volatile in a day
Right,
during the day. So,
right.
have you started with forex or other markets? Like, have you got into crypto, for example?
I look at crypto more as a spot bag holding, like holding your spot holdings. I don't necessarily trade it with leverage. I'm more
Yeah,
focused on FX markets, kind of leaning into more futures as well. But that's really primarily where my focus is at the moment. I try not to jump around into too many markets and just really stick on what I know, what I've been doing for
perfect.
multiple years. Hmm.
Perfect. That's really nice because with traders, starting with crypto, actually, we hear a lot
Right,
of losing stories and then like coming
right,
out of the ashes, and it's really interesting. And so many people can
exactly.
relate to that. But I'm really surprised every time we host a
Hmm.
trader here who never started out with crypto, who never traded crypto. When you stick to actually one market and one market
Hmm.
all, I think it really shortens the learning process. It takes less time because you
Right,
don't have to deal with those huge ups and downs. And
exactly. Hmm.
yeah, it changes a lot. Um, and what do you think was the most difficult thing to overcome in trading for you? And how did you actually overcome it?
I would say getting out of my own way. It's so simple to say, but it's really a big one. If you can't get out of your own way, you're always going to hold yourself back from your true potential when it comes to being a consistently profitable trader. And how I overcame that was, we'll go into trades in a minute, but it was more so just knowing that I have targets set and not getting in front of myself to close profits out early, having patience in my trades, having the confidence to know that I'm going for a specific target and letting it play out, because I know that all the data shows that over time, if I let it play out, it's going to be profitable. And for me, it's just the biggest thing just hitting on is getting out of your own way is really what's going to help you get funded, get more funded accounts, and really strive and be the great trader you want to be.
That's excellent. That's
Mhm,
excellent because I think a lot of traders can also resonate with that because I know I can right now.
mhm.
And how did you actually change that perspective about yourself? Because that requires a shift in the mentality, right? You can say whatever you want. You can say you believe in something, but as long as you don't believe it exactly,
Yeah,
that
exactly.
thought is not going to change. So,
Mhm,
like, for example, for me, like
mhm,
waiting out for the results only
mhm.
happened when I lowered my risk. Like, so that was a
Right.
change. Like, it was a crazy change for
Mhm.
me. And how did it play out for you? How did you actually change that thought process?
Yeah, for me, there's a word that a lot of traders use that I started implementing, and it's just being dispassionate about my
Mhm.
trading results, whether I'm winning, whether I'm losing, not getting too excited either or like too low either way if it's a loss, right? And just being level headed. I look at trading more as a business. So if I lose, it is what it is. Like I've already accepted that the trade might already be a loser. If I win, I have a nice trade, then awesome. But I also don't get excited about it. I just leave it for what it is. And I think for me, being level headed for the highs or the lows and trying to stay neutral just keeps me also able to execute and not get too overly excited about anything that happens in the market. Because at the end of the day, it's just data that we're looking at.
That's amazing. Interesting point to look at it because
Easier said than done, of course, but
yeah, obviously, but it's a very interesting point because I think like for successful traders, like
Mhm,
people who can actually make money but consistently,
mhm,
I think this one thing is in common that
mhm,
they do in fact detach
right.
themselves from the results of the trades. Maybe
Mhm,
they do it by lowering their risk,
mhm,
maybe by something else. I don't know, but that thing is quite in common, and I love that hearing that
Mhm.
thing in common. So thank you for saying that. Before we can actually get into your trades, I'm really
Mhm.
curious about them. I want to ask you one last question because
Mhm.
this one is really important and it intrigues me so much. You've been
Mhm.
trading for 7 years, but how long do you think it took you to become actually profitable? I'm not talking about just one win, two
Mhm.
wins, or three wins in a row, but maybe small ones and like accumulating over each other, but making consistently some
Mhm.
profits. How long do you think it took you?
I would say that through all the trading I've done, through going through so many strategies to finally finding the strategy that works for me, I would say I've been consistently profitable only in the last 2 to 2.5 years. And reason being is because I used to jump around so much to where something would work until it didn't. But that's the nature of the market is with any strategy, it'll work until it doesn't. And then you just have to work through your drawdown. It happens to everybody. And for me, once I really figured that out and accepted that in the last 2 years, I was able to continue to find a strategy that just works for me. And every time I execute it on, win or loss, I'm still going to show up for the same strategy and not hop to something different just because it's not hot for the current month that I'm trading it. So for me, it just made a big difference in my trading, and I've really looked at, especially in this prop industry, that I'd rather be consistently profitable and continue to pay myself, especially with the biweekly payouts we have at Funny Pips, rather than a lot of traders in the industry are trying to get some huge payout and just change their entire life overnight. Whether you can just be consistently profitable in the long run, it's all money, it all compounds, and it's just going to help your mindset so much more.
I think these are great points because it actually confirms your payouts, what you think, what you
Mm,
say, and what payouts you get
mm,
confirms each other so much. So look at your payout. This one is
mhm.
1.8K and this one is 2.3K, right? These are very
Right.
close to each other. I think there's only like 0.5% difference between them. But it tells
Mhm.
me that at some point, you decide to like stop trading and then take your
Right.
payout and like then keep going but stop at a certain point. So and
Mhm.
I think this is really important. Do you have
Mhm.
this type of limits for yourself? For example, do you say like, oh, if I make like 3%, I'm going to stop trading no matter what time do I left for the payout? Do you have those kinds of
Yeah.
limits?
Yeah, for me, it's more of I get a trade that I like if it's profitable and I say, hey, the count's up 2.3, 3%. I tell myself I'm just gonna lock this payout away, set it aside, and I'll just pretty much be done once I get paid out, then I'm gonna start trading again. Obviously, of course, there comes a time where depending on your biweekly payout, where that falls, let's say if it's I've gotten 2.3% on the account and my payout's still about 14 days away, of course I'm going to still keep trading my strategy because I'm not going to say, hey, I need to hold on to this money because, if I take the next trade and lose it, then I'm never going to have the money. Like that's just a loss aversion mindset. And you don't want to have that either, right? So really it depends on how close the payout is. If I have a couple days, like I know I have still money sitting aside waiting for another payout in 2 days, right? So for me, I'm like, okay, awesome. I'm just gonna I'm gonna wait for that. But if it was 14 days, I still want to keep trading my strategy and still keep trading the account consistently and not pretty much get in front of myself in that way.
This is incredible. What I'm hearing right now is incredible because for every question,
Mm.
it's like you can see my screen, you can read my brain, and you can answer directly without even need to think. Because I think that's because you have a lot of experience in this market, and the thing is, you already know what you're gonna say because you already experienced that. You went there, you walked it, and you finished it. So you ate it and left lone crumbs, actually. That's what's going on right here. So, can you please share your trading view screen with us and
Yeah,
show us
absolutely.
how you approach the markets? I want to learn about your risk management when it comes to this.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, I do.
Okay, great. So we'll take a look at AUD, USD. So as far as my strategy goes, very simple. What I like to do is I like to look for a change of character in the trend as well as breakup structure. And I only do this on the 4-hour time frame. And really what I like to do is there's a specific pattern here with these three red candles called the three black crows. And really what I like to do is once I see that a high has been made and we sweep these previous lows here, and we make this lower low. Once the lower high comes into play and I see this third candle pretty much crossing the previous wick of the 4-hour, I take my trade, and normally I'll go for a 1 to 2, a 1 to 3, and then there are times as well where I will just continue to let my trade ride and manually move my stops and kind of create a manual trailing stop rather. But for this particular trade, I had entered right here around 0.6777 and really let it fall to about 0.669 or yeah 0.6696. So the entry and exit might be off slightly. I remember on this particular trade, this is when I had gotten paid out on. It was about 77 pips, and for me, that was good. It's interesting because as you look at the trade and it keeps going, you can look at it from the framework of, well, if I put it at break even, the market's going to go lower, and most traders could be like, hey, I would have missed out on so much more profit. But the way I look at it is there's always another day to trade. The market is always in perpetual motion, is always moving. We can always come back another day to scoop up more profits. But this one right here is my AUD USD trade that I took.
That's amazing. And since you're
Mhm.
trading a kind of a higher time frame relative
Right.
to what other traders are also trading, I imagine that you decide your take profit depending on the like maybe the closest lows or the highs. I don't know, but
Mhm.
which tells me just by looking at it, which tells me that you don't have a fixed RR when it comes to your entry, your stop loss, and your take profit. You decide based on the market structure, all of your elements, right? Take profit and stop loss points.
Yeah, for this particular trade, once I knew that this low had been swept here and I saw we were coming into this lower high area, once I had executed here and this candle had came all the way here and closed, I like to just kind of leave the trade and
Mhm.
just see where it's going to go. But this particular green candle, when it had popped up here, I didn't like the volume coming into this candle here. And for me, I decided to get out. And good thing I did because it came all the way back around. Would have made more profit, but I don't look at it from that
Takes a lot of
perspective.
time. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's better
So,
to keep this mentality all together than to wait
right,
for some other bigger wins, I think. Um,
right,
you don't only trade AUD USD, right?
right. So if I'm going to move to Euro USD, had another trade marked up. So on this particular trade as well, incurred a little bit of drawdown. So this goes into that patience that we were talking about.
Yeah.
On this green candle here, the wick had come down, so that would be my strategy. Didn't close bearish like I wanted, so that's where I incurred some of the drawdown. Was risking a little bit more on this trade. I gave it a little bit more room to breathe. Eventually, the market had rolled over and we broke that structure, and I just continued to hold it. Once we were down at this level, I still wanted to hold it another day. So by the time I got out of this trade, I believe I had executed it on a Monday, got out on a Thursday. Probably could have still held it into the market close more on Friday, but didn't. Still locked in the profit. I said, hey, that was good enough for me. And I just really decided to swing that trade.
That looks amazing. Do you have a fixed percentage you risk for every trade?
So on this particular trade, I had risked about 40 pips to make whatever the market was going to give me. So this one was just more of a swing trade. But there are times to where, kind of going back to the AUD trade, that if I were to set this at a 1 to 3, typically I like to risk about 20 pips to make 60 pips. That's typically what I like to do. But on these particular trades, they were just me kind of letting them ride, see what the market was going to give me. But I kind of go back and forth. And it's interesting. I'll do more of a systematic approach where I'm just like, hey, I want to risk 20 pips to make 60 pips. And if the market gets there, awesome. And then there'll be weeks like this particular trade where I'll just kind of risk 20 pips to see, well, how much is the market going to give me, right? And I'll just let my trade ride. So that's the frame of mind I had on both of these particular trades.
Perfect. And I imagine you also go in
Mhm.
drawdowns. How do you manage
Yes.
those emotions, or do you change your risk when
Mhm.
you go into drawdowns?
So, for example, the way I manage the emotion when I go into drawdown, are you speaking from the frame of mind if the count like goes from 100,000 down to 95,000, or do you mean like when I'm in a particular trade and it's in drawdown?
I'm actually asking just in
Mhm.
general. Like, for example, you take a trade, the
Right.
first trade after your payout, it was a loss,
Mhm.
and maybe you lost
Right.
1%, 1.5%, or maybe 2, 3%. And then
Right.
do you change your attitude towards your next trade? Do you risk less, or do you try to find setups that fits your strategy
Right.
like 100%, or do you still take it even though it fits your strategy like maybe 90%?
So for me, I take the same trades all the time because I know that in the long run, my strategy will play out to be consistently profitable. So even working on getting my funded account, I remember my count getting down to about 93,000. And just for me to work out of that drawdown was continue to show up to the market, look for trades just like I'm showing here, and then just continuing to execute. And pretty much from there, that's where I was able to get myself out of drawdown and get to the funded account and then continue to trade it. And really, the way I manage my mindset and the resilience behind it is just knowing that I have so much data collected that I know that if I'm profitable for 5 trades and then I had to get a string of losers for 5 losses in a row, that it's going to still work itself out and I'm going to still be profitable as long as I keep the risk where it is and I don't change anything about it. Typically, I risk about 1.2% to make 3.6%, or it could be a little bit more depending on if I let the trade swing. But usually I leave it at that and I'm not changing around the lot sizes or the risk a whole lot. I keep it pretty fixed.
That's perfect. How long
Mhm.
usually do your trades take?
So for me, I know that if it's going to be a loser, I should lose within about 9 to 10 hours or so. If the trade's going to be a winner, usually I'm in the market for about 24 hours to 26 hours. That's really what the data shows. And pretty much from that frame of mind, that's where I know that, and I have the confidence to just keep holding the trades and let the trade go as long as it wants to go. And that's really helped me out from a psychology perspective as well, knowing that, hey, I'm in a trade, I'm up profits, and not trying to close those profits out too early just to gather them because maybe the previous trade was a loser and I need to recoup my losses. I like to know that, hey, if I'm profitable right now and the trade is running really good, let me just hold on to it and see what it can turn into.
Amazing. That's an amazing way to look at it. Do you have more trades for us?
Yeah, so I have one on GBP CAD. I'll pull it up.
You trade
So
a
this
lot of
one,
pairs, right? Because you trade based on market
mhm,
structure, and
mhm,
I see that you trade like GBP, AUD, and Euro. So those are kind of similar, like the way they move.
right.
Um,
Mhm.
do you also trade other pairs as well, or stick to just these three?
I do Euro USD, GBP USD, GCAD, AU, and NU. I stick to about 5 pairs. But on a lot of the payouts that I've had with funding pips so far have primarily been Euro USD, GBP CAD, and AUD. And
Mhm.
actually, this that Euro USD trade I had taken alongside with this GBP CAD trade. And same thing, you can see in this area that trade was sitting in drawdown. Mindset during this was if it stops me out, I've already accepted that I'm going to lose. Price decided to roll back over. And then once again, I'd held this trade to that same Thursday as the Euro trade and then just exited it. Obviously, mindset could have been when I saw it on Friday, I missed more profit, but it is what it is. And I just take the trade. So that same thought process as the Euro USD trade when both were entered drawdown and then they rolled came out of it and then just became profitable, which was good.
Interesting. The only reason I
Mhm,
ask because since you trade higher time frames, it
mhm.
must take some time for you to wait for your setup actually for the market to give you a clear structure, clear direction,
Right,
right? And
right.
you must be waiting a lot. So having multiple pairs to actually trade is kind of important when you swing trade, right?
Yeah, it helps out a lot because I can filter through each pair and then I can say if there's no trade on GBP CAD, I can say, hey, let me go take a look at Euro USD. And then if there's a trade to take there, I'll execute on it. And then there's also times too where I'll go to AUD USD. And if I see that I'm taking a trade on this pair, a lot of the times that AUD is going to go with NZD, and I'll like to take both trades, but it just really depends on what the market is looking like, if the pattern is there, if it's going to play out, and
Yeah.
then I'll execute on both.
Perfect. Interesting. Perfect. Thank you.
Mhm.
And your GBP trade?
Yeah, for a GBP USD or the GBP CAD.
Yep. I think have we
Mhm.
covered already the GBP USD? I don't
For
think
this
so.
one, no
Yeah.
particular trade on this one at the moment.
Oh yeah.
I have trades in the past, but no trade on this particular one that I've been paid out on. Hopefully coming soon though.
Oh, I'm excited to see it actually.
Yeah,
It looks
definitely
really
looking forward to it.
choppy when you put it that way. Like
Right.
I don't see a clear direction, but obviously you see a lot of stuff, different stuff. So doesn't
Right.
matter what I see. So thank you. Thank you for showing that. And I
Yeah,
think
you're
it's
welcome, of
really
course.
important when traders talk about their strategy. And when they say like, "Oh, I wait for market structure, I wait for this and that and this and that," I think it's really important to actually see it on the screen. Like, what is this trader talking about? Like,
Mhm,
what kind of risk they follow, or what do they do in drawdowns, or
mhm,
how do their mentalities change during a drawdown or during a
mhm.
trade? For example, in this trade on Euro USD, you were in a drawdown for a couple of hours actually, but
Yeah,
you managed to hold on to it. You managed to take a profit out of it and take a payout. So I think this is really important for someone who's just trying to get into swing trading or just in general trading. What would you
right.
advise them in terms of patience or in terms of waiting for their setup,
Mhm.
actually their setup, not just taking everything that comes along their way?
Yeah, great question. I would advise any new trader that is looking to get into trading to look at it from the framework of it's a long-term play and not looking to make overnight riches with trading, knowing that I'm going to choose one strategy, stick to that strategy, know that no matter what happens, if you enter a losing streak, you're in drawdown, stick to that strategy. It's going to play itself out as long as the data shows that it's consistently profitable, and then from there, as long as you keep that patience, you will become funded with funding pips, and over time you'll get multiple accounts. But it's just a long term play, especially when it comes to trading. Don't rush the process. Find what works for you, and it'll all work out. Just have to be patient about it.
Amazing. That's amazing. And I think it also resonates with a lot of advices
Hmm.
from the traders we hosted here because there's just one thing in common in those
Hmm.
advices. The baseline is you got to walk the walk. Like you can't
Right.
rush the process and it takes
Hmm.
time, but you have to see it for yourself. You have to,
Exactly.
because you have to actually believe in what you trade, right? Like someone
Right.
can tell you, wait for market structure, wait for fair value gaps,
Right.
etc. But like until you see it played out in the market for your own eyes, you just
Hmm.
don't happen to see it fully. So this is a good advice. You gotta walk the walk, and the rest is just gonna take care of itself.
Hmm.
Just one last question for you.
Yeah.
You're trading, but you also
Hmm.
do another business, helping other businesses out there grow
Hmm.
their businesses. I said a lot of
Hmm.
businesses. But the thing is, maybe you are a full-time
Hmm.
trader, but you have another source of living, which
Hmm.
must be easier on your psychology. But for
Right.
traders, wishing that they can go full time in trading. You still haven't
Hmm.
done it yet because
Hmm.
maybe you find it easier, like psychological wise,
Right.
right? So,
Right.
what would you advise to them? Do you think they should also keep their jobs? And if they want to go full time, when should they actually do it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say so. It's in regards to trading. The reason why I still work while I trade, number one, it does help my psychology knowing that I have other sources of income coming into play. That does help when it comes to putting on trades, knowing if I lose, it doesn't matter. I'll still be able to pay rent. So that is key. Another thing too, as far as advice goes, so going full time in trading, the biggest thing is if you have at least, I would say, 6 months of saving, you're debt free, you're not reliant on having to pay off a bunch of credit cards, and you know that if you had a bad month, you could still pay your bills. That'd be one thing. But also, too, on the contrary, you can still have a 9 to 5. I think a lot of people, they look at whether it be another business or 9 to 5 is it's a bad thing if you trade and do that. It's still income. It's still all
It is.
money. It still all helps out. There's really nothing wrong with it, and it's still going to allow you to do other things. And I think with trading, I really think that for me, I'm a big proponent on high time frame and just doing 4 hour and just setting it and forgetting it. I think a lot of traders would be able to, especially new traders, get out of their own way. If you can get in a trade and just get out of the market, live your life. Let's say you do still work a 9 to 5. There's nothing wrong with that. Come back, be profitable, get payouts on funding pips. A lot of people, I think, if they just want to go full time trading, definitely possible, but you just have to align yourself with a lot of things that we kind of just spoke on there.
Thank you. That's really good advice,
Mhm.
actually. Like, have some saved up money because
Mhm.
you have to know that you can support yourself even though your
Right.
trading doesn't feel like go good. I think these are
Exactly.
really
Mhm.
important advices. So thank you for
Mhm.
sharing your experience, sharing your thoughts, and showing people out here that it can be done.
Right.
People are doing it every day. When we're
Exactly.
losing, people are winning on the other side. Like you said it at the
Exactly.
beginning of this
Right.
interview. So thank you, Shane, for joining in. I'm very happy to
Of course.
meet you.
Yeah, happy to meet you as well. Thanks for having me today.
You are very welcome. And for everyone who's watching us today, I'll see you guys on the next one.